G'day Harbour Youth, this is Tom Batty here and we're doing a follow-up interview with Ebony Birchall, who came and visited us on Friday to talk about her work as a lawyer and her faith and how those two intersect. And so, yeah, hope you enjoy this chat. Ebony, a few of the guys wanted to know, would you prefer to eat poo flavoured ice cream or ice cream flavoured poo?
Oh, that's really hard and gross. Thanks for the question. Because I guess on one hand you've got yourself eating poo, on the other hand you've got yourself not eating poo, but the taste of poo. I don't. Can I opt for neither?
No, you have to choose one. That's the fun of the question.
Oh, how about chocolate flavoured ice cream? I probably would go poo flavoured ice cream.
Yep.
Because I think that's just too gross to eat actual poo.
That's funny. And one of the other guys wanted to know, do you like horses?
Sure. Love horses. I was in Cuba a few months ago and I went on a horse ride from a little town in Cuba where people still ride around in horses. So there's cowboys on the streets.
Yeah.
Not fancy cars like what we've got. And went on a half day horse ride to a waterfall in the middle of nowhere, and it was really pretty. Yeah, it was really fun.
That's fun. So love to continue exploring what it's like to be a Christian in your work. When is it hardest to be a Christian and a lawyer?
Well, there was an instance when I first became a lawyer. So this was 5 years ago now. So I was very, very junior, and didn't really know what I was doing. And one of my clients sort of had asked me to lie for him so that he could get entitlements.
Oh yeah.
He had some injuries, so it was in a hard situation. But so I guess those sort of situations where you want to tell the truth and you want to uphold justice and all of those ideals that I guess align with God's view of the world, but then there are clients who want you to do the opposite. So I guess there's some pressure there sometimes to do what's against God's design for our world. But thankfully in the current role that I'm doing, because I'm there to protect people, it's very easy to do, I guess, the right thing in the eyes of God and in the eyes of my clients at the same time, because that aligns. But there would be other roles within law that it would become very difficult, I think.
So your current role means that it's easy to kind of do Christian things because you're working in ways that would seem Christian anyway, but the conflict comes when you do commercial law and you're trying to please clients rather than uphold justice.
Yeah, and in commercial law, for example, that's just law that is all about business dealings. I guess the end point is always money and just money, and so lawyers and business people have to be very focused on money and profit, and I guess that's when conflicts start to arise, because obviously my priority is people and God, whereas if your priority is business and money, that can create issues.
Yeah. So I guess for those of you guys at Harbour Youth that are thinking about doing law, then you've got to really weigh up, do I want to do commercial law and go down that path and know that that's going to be a struggle, or do you want to do other avenues of practicing law?
And you can definitely choose to do law in a way that honours God, and indeed we need lawyers who are out there fighting for God's kingdom, fighting for justice, and it's just the way you do it, I guess. And I think that's right in every occupation. There are opportunities in every occupation to be deceptive or take advantage of people or seek after money and power, but it's all about choosing God's love and design for the world, and loving people in the way that God loves them.
Can I explore that idea of seeking power? Because you're in an interesting spot where you are in a powerful place in your organisation. So you've had to, in a sense, climb the corporate ladder, but now you're using that to, as we talked about on Friday, to sue the government and to bring about justice for refugees. What is it? how do you seek more power to do good in your, that kind of
It's
tension?
attention, yes.
Yeah. Like, that you're climbing the corporate ladder so that you can have more influence, but you can do that for good. But sometimes I imagine on your career path you might have been in a situation where you knew, like, how does this affect justice for the world? Like, this is just affecting your career. Like, did you deliberately choose to climb a corporate ladder knowing that you would have more influence one day, or what was going on in your head?
Yeah, I think it's important to strive after success, but for the right reasons. So I guess I have always wanted to improve myself and be successful, because I know that to be taken seriously and to be in those positions of power, you have to be successful and you have to be good at what you do. Like, I would never want to be a human rights lawyer that was just bad at what I do. Like, I wanted to learn and to be the best lawyer that I could be.
Because you cared about the people that you're going to be working for.
Yeah. But it's all about the heart. I guess God tells us that it's always about the heart and why you're doing things, like the motive behind your actions. And so the way that practically worked out in my career is, I would see lots of people around me working really, really long hours so that they looked like they were, really invested in the law firm and doing the best work for the company and that kind of thing. But instead of me chasing after, I guess, company motives or higher wages and that kind of thing, I would always choose to do extra projects or extra tasks that would benefit God's kingdom. So, for example, when I was a younger lawyer, I would, do my job as well as I could and represent my clients as well as I could. But then at night, instead of staying back late to do more work for the company that I worked for, I would instead choose to stay back late and write articles about a justice issue, or, try and help people who needed help, or like run charity events that all like gave me good skills and, organizational skills and management skills and that kind of thing. So it was always about choosing to do something that would further God's kingdom, that I guess would store up treasures in heaven rather than storing up treasures on earth, is a good way of looking at it.
And I reckon, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've been able to do that because you've been connected to a church and part of your church community the whole way through your law career. You had, like, some people I know get sucked away into their careers and like, we don't see them in church. It's like, oh, where are they? They're just, they work 60-hour weeks or whatever. But you've chosen to be fairly active at your church at the same time.
Yeah.
How come?
I think it's so easy to lose perspective. I could have easily been the type of person who just was locked up in an office 80 hours a week and forgot about the rest of the world and just would, a lot of people at my job just seek after glory and money, and it's always about seeking glory and power and money and whatever. But I guess making sure you're reading the Bible every day, making sure you're going to church, making sure you're learning about God's word, making sure you're enjoying time with God, just being in a relationship with God. I think like all of those things keep you rooted in Christ and keep you in that sort of kingdom perspective. So if I'm thinking about God and God's kingdom and storing up treasures in heaven, and actively like pursuing God every day, that keeps me grounded in Christ. Whereas if I'm just thinking about law and money and power, then of course you're going to get
swallowed by the world.
And like looking back, I'm so thankful and grateful that I did keep choosing Christ, like even when it's hard and life is busy and you've got other priorities and things popping up. Like, it's so important to keep choosing Christ.
And I can see, like, your commitment to being a growing Christian has meant that you're a lawyer in an influential place, able to do huge amount for justice of the world at the moment. Last question. You've been in law for a while and you've got cool opportunities to sue the government at the moment. But what about the kids at Harbour Youth? How can they be involved in social welfare right now? Like, obviously there's a difference between where you're at and where they're at. So what can they do?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think everyone has the opportunity to do God's justice in their life every day. And I think that the idea of God's justice is it's simply, most simple, the idea that you should be loving your neighbor, which is what Jesus tells us.
Yeah, it's pretty basic, isn't it?
Yeah, love God, love your neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about justice in those terms, it makes it really simple. So, you know, guys in high school or primary school, you guys can love your neighbor by just like loving the people in your classroom, loving your family, loving your friends, making sure that you're showing God's kindness and love to everyone that you interact with. So, you know, I love my neighbour through my career by trying to help refugees, but you could easily love your neighbour at school by, you know, having a conversation with the kid at school that no one wants to talk to, or you know, by loving your family and making sure that you're spending time with them and talking with them and growing your relationships with your friends and family. So that's one thing you can do. The other thing you can really do, I guess, is just be aware of other people in the world. So be aware that Australia is not the end of the world. You know, there's things outside of Australia, and we are so blessed, I guess, with how much wealth and free time and the ability to go to the beach and the ability to go to school and learn, the ability just to be safe, I guess. And we're very privileged, and I guess sometimes we don't realise how privileged we actually are. So it's important to think outside of our little boxes that we live in and think about what's happening in the rest of the world, and thinking about just being engaged in that and wanting to learn about the rest of the world, and not just tuning out and focusing on yourself, but to have like it's kind of the kingdom perspective again, like thinking about God's kingdom more wholly than just your own personal life, and how you know, I just said to Tom earlier, like it's important to know that our government, while we are enjoying a wonderful life in Australia, our government doesn't always make choices that are aligned with God's kingdom and God's design for our world. So even just that knowledge is important, so that you don't just take everything that the government says or everything that your friends and family say as truth, but you know, coming back to the Bible and what does God say about this issue, and just being having that knowledge that that you know, we want to seek deeper answers and seek God's kingdom and purposes in everything that we do, and the way we spend our money and the way we use our time. Like a lot of people have a lot of free time that they could be using to give to others to really bless their lives. And
so it seems like it's all about kind of weighing up everything in your life and saying, in light of knowing God, am I loving my neighbour? In every single category of all of the different ways and skills and time that God has given me, am I loving my neighbour? And is there a way that I can be used by God for that?
Yeah, exactly. So like a really simple basic example of that is, like, I do a lot of charity work, like trying to fundraise for specifically a high school that's in Tanzania. So the kids over there don't have the opportunity to go to high school in the way that we do. And so there's a high school over there that we try and run, and we try and fundraise to keep going because they don't have the money to go to high school. So every year I probably spend at least 6 months of my year organising an event to raise money to keep that school going. And I know that I could spend that time just at the beach with my friends, or out shopping, or you know, doing things that might be fun, but I would prefer to put my energy and my time into making sure that a school full of kids can learn, and it's a Christian school, so they get to learn about Jesus at the same time that they get to learn, you know, life skills and maths and science and everything that we've had the privilege of learning about. So
and I love that that's an opportunity that didn't just kind of land on your plate, but you've sought this out and you said, how do I want to actively use my time for God? So it's really cool. Well, Ebony, thanks so much for coming on and doing a follow-up interview.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I loved coming.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thank you, Ebony.